I did not want to be Bob. Bob wanted to be me. So what go wrong?
How can one man from a small island touch the hearts of millions worldwide? Bob Marley did it effortlessly. His songs carried the soul of Jamaica, warm, honest, and filled with stories of love, struggle, and freedom. People everywhere connected to him because he sang about real life. But behind the peace and unity he preached, there were hidden tensions. Marley was not a man without grudges. There were a few reggae artists he could not stand, and the reasons were far from simple. His story, like his music, was full of truth and fire. Watch as we reveal the hate most people didn't know existed in reggae music. Lee Scratch Perry.
Bob Marley want to be God, but God don't take cocaine. Okay.
Lee Scratch Perry, born Rainford. Hugh Perry on March 20th, 1940, in Kendal, Hanover, Jamaica, came from a poor farming life and became the mind behind dub music's strange sound. His studio, the Black Ark, was known for its echoes and unusual effects. His friendship with Bob Marley began in the late 1960s when the Wailers, tired of unfair treatment at Studio One, turned to Perry for help to shape their anger into new music. At Dynamic Sounds, Perry created Duppy Conqueror in 1970, a song that mocked superstition and power. Marley sang lines. Perry suggested, and Perry later said their work together felt almost too powerful. They recorded Soul Rebel and African Herbsman, with Perry's tape experiments creating a new sound. During this time, they grew close, working like a family. However, their friendship later fell apart due to financial issues. Perry paid the recording costs, but the band saw none of the profits. He took credit for many of their songs, leaving the Wailers angry and betrayed. The tension came to a head at the Sombrero Club in Kingston in the early 1970s after Duppy Conqueror became a success. There had been a spoken equal deal, but Perry changed it, saying it was no longer equal and offering only 10 cents per record. Marley argued, but Bunny Wailer became furious. He shouted that they had made no proper agreement and overturned tables angrily, almost hitting Perry with a chair, before Bob and Peter Tosh stopped him. Perry grabbed a bottle and claimed it held acid. Tosh demanded to know what was inside, and when Perry refused to answer, Tosh smashed it, and fumes rose into the air. Perry later said it was only their suspicion, denying any harm. Bunny claimed he fought Perry, while Perry, in 2017, called Bunny a liar full of bitterness. Soon after, the Wailers left to join Island Records in 1973. For Marley's new band, Chris Blackwell used Perry's musicians, bassist Aston and drummer Carlton Barrett. Perry said Bob arranged this, using Blackwell's money, and accused both men of stealing his band. He called Blackwell a parasite and said the experience disgusted him. Perry later sold the rights to the Wailers' songs to Trojan Records, retaining the payment Marley had intended for the band. Marley claimed that Perry had sold their songs without sharing the money. Their friendship collapsed completely. Perry burned down his studio in 1983, saying it was full of evil spirits and thieves' memories. He swore to ruin Island Records and wanted to see it fall apart. When Marley died of cancer in 1981, Perry's words were harsh. He said Bob had turned away from God and blamed that for his death. He said he felt no sadness and called Marley names, saying that if Bob had listened to him, he would still be alive. Perry carried this anger for the rest of his life. When he died on August 29, 2021, the hatred remained, marking the end of a long and painful story between two men who had once created music together and changed reggae forever. Peter Tosh. Peter Tosh and Bob Marley were two strong voices in reggae. They were more than singers. They were men who used their music to speak for justice and for people who had no power. Together, they formed the heart of the Wailers. That group helped shape the sound that would take reggae across the world. Their friendship grew from shared hardship, but their different beliefs eventually separated them. Their story began in Kingston, Jamaica, in the early 1960s. Both came from simple beginnings. Tosh was born Winston Hubert McIntosh in Westmoreland, while Marley, born Robert Nesta Marley, came from 9 Mile Village. Both were drawn to Kingston's busy streets where ska and rocksteady ruled the air. It was there that their lives met and a new journey started. With Neville Livingston, later known as Bunny Wailer, they formed a trio that became the Wailers. They loved music deeply and wanted their songs to say something fundamental about the world they lived in. Their Rastafarian faith tied them together. It gave their songs a sense of direction and purpose. They sang for truth and for low-income people, making them brothers as much as bandmates. Under Dodd's care, the Wailers began to build their own sound. They blended ska, rocksteady, and what would soon be known as reggae. Tosh's heavy voice worked perfectly with Marley's lighter tone. Together, they made something new. Their songs talked about poverty, injustice, and faith. One Love and Get Up, Stand Up became songs people could believe in. As Marley's name began to shine, Tosh grew uneasy. Marley's soft voice and calm way brought him closer to global fans. Tosh's songs were harder, full of protest and fire. Island Records began to push Marley to the front, calling the band Bob Marley and the Wailers. Tosh felt left behind. He saw his work being overlooked. Tosh was not a quiet person. His words were strong, and his songs spoke against police violence, unfair laws, and racism. He did not care for compromise. Marley was more peaceful and believed in reaching people through love. These differences became too deep to mend. In 1973, after Burnin', Tosh left the band. Bunny Wailer soon left, and Marley carried on with the name. Tosh began a solo path that kept his spirit alive. His first album, Legalize It, became a bold message in 1976. It called for the acceptance of marijuana and gave voice to Rastafarians. His later albums, Equal Rights in 1977 and Bush Doctor in '8, spoke about injustice worldwide. Tosh's music was sharp and fearless. He sang against apartheid and government abuse. His songs were a cry for freedom. Marley, meanwhile, reached a larger crowd. He became a world figure with albums like Rastaman Vibration in 1976 and Exodus in 1977. His songs about love and unity gave hope to many. Though they took different paths, Tosh and Marley remained tied by history. They both believed in change, even if their ways differed. Tosh's fire and Marley's calm both spoke truth. Their rivalry was never about hate. It stemmed from their strong will and their conviction in their own methods of fighting for what was right. However, the rivalry extended beyond death, because Tosh did not attend Marley's burial, amplifying their division. Their differences came into view again at the One Love Peace concert in Kingston on April 22, 1978. Marley brought the two rival political leaders, Michael Manley and Edward Seaga, to the stage. He made them hold hands as a sign of peace. Tosh took his moment to speak his mind. He called out the politicians for failing the people and demanded justice and freedom. That night showed who they both were. Marley sought unity, while Tosh sought truth through confrontation. Yet there was respect between them that never faded. They had shared the same dream once, learned from each other in Trenchtown, and lifted each other's voices. Their connection went beyond fame and stayed through time. In Trenchtown, they learned to play and write together. Life there was hard. Poverty and struggle filled the streets. They learned from older musicians in the community and practiced late into the night. Studio One provided them with a platform to shape their sound. Every song built on the last, until reggae had a clear beat and message. They often faced long recording days and little pay, but they kept working because they believed in what they were doing. The Wailers' sound reached rock listeners when Island Records introduced new studio tools. Catch a Fire stood out with its new sound and striking album cover. The following tours brought fame and deepened the distance between Tosh and Marley. Tosh wanted complete control over his songs. He did not want to soften his words for anyone. He collaborated with artists like Mick Jagger on Bush Doctor to reach new audiences, but never strayed from his roots. Marley, meanwhile, drew massive crowds with songs like No Woman, No Cry. His concerts became places of peace and spirit. The One Love Peace concert brought together more than 30,000 people. Tosh's speech was bold, Marley's gesture was calm. Both moments showed their true nature. Afterward, they found quiet understanding. They never became enemies, only men who chose different ways to speak the same truth. Their story left a deep mark on reggae. They turned a local sound into something the world could hear. Artists who came after them drew from both their styles. Today, Jamaica remembers them with tributes and museums. Every year, their songs remind people of what they stood for. Even now, their songs live on. They remind people to stand up, love, and keep faith. They were friends and rivals at the same time. Their bond gave depth to their art and to reggae as a whole. Across the world, their message remains alive. The Reggae t-shirt collection is one small way to honor them, keeping their faces and words in memory of where they belong. Nevertheless, Tosh was not the only reggae star Bob had issues with. Even Bunny Wailer, his stepbrother, envied him in the long run. Bunny Wailer, born Neville O'Reilly. Livingston on April 10, 1947 in Kingston, Jamaica, shared a deep family bond with Bob Marley that changed from brotherhood to hostility. Raised in the poor lanes of Trenchtown, where hunger was part of daily life, Neville's father, Thaddeus, became close to Cedella Booker, Bob's mother, joining the two families when the boys were about 9 years old. They lived in the same small homes, singing gospel songs at night under weak light. Their voices were united by a promise to rise above hardship. However, the closeness they once shared slowly turned bitter as fame brought jealousy and division, which ultimately broke their bond. By 1963, under the guidance of Joe Higgs, Neville, now known as Bunny, joined Bob and Peter Tosh to form the Wailers, a group that used ska rhythms to speak against social problems. Bunny's clear voice stood out in songs like Simmer Down, a cry against violence and police abuse that carried a strong Rastafarian message. At Studio One, producer Coxsone Dodd paid them very little, even when their songs sold well, creating anger that united them for a time. Island Records offered them a deal in 1972, and Chris Blackwell tried to make their music easier for foreign listeners. When Catch a Fire was released in 1973, Bunny's voice filled Concrete Jungle, a song of pain and struggle. The next album, Burnin', carried his touch in Get Up, Stand Up, a call for human rights. But when the group was renamed Bob Marley and the Wailers, Bunny felt erased as Bob became the center of attention. The growing conflict came to a head during their 1973 tour in the United States. The shows were filled with drinking and behavior against Bunny's faith. "This is unclean ground, Bob, full of corruption," he growled in a backstage argument remembered by those there. Bob answered quietly but firmly, saying that their message needed to reach people everywhere, not just in holy places, and that Bunny's strict views held them back. Bunny's reply was sharp, accusing Bob of trading their values for fame and wealth. The argument ended with Bunny walking away, breaking the bond they once shared. Bunny recorded Blackheart Man in 1976 on his own, an album filled with strong spiritual themes. Songs like Dreamland mourned lost ideals, while Fig Tree critiqued the growing commercialization of the music industry. Albums such as Protest and Any Father's House continued his message, rejecting Bob's path. When Bunny received recognition for Rock and Groove in 1981, the success only reminded him of what he had lost. After Bob died in 1981, legal battles followed over music rights. Bunny accused Bob's company, Cayman Music, of keeping money from him and claimed he was cheated out of his share of the Wailers' songs. Court records show that he stated Bob turned the family into a business and left the rest behind. Losing the case in 1986 was a heavy blow, and even a later agreement in 1991 that gave Tough Gong to Bob's family did not settle the bitterness. Arguments over names, royalties, and control of music continued. In 2021, after Bunny's stroke at 73, his estate fought to recover his master recordings in a case that lasted 3 years. It was his last effort to regain control of his work. Until the end, Bunny stayed out of the public eye, holding fast to his belief in pure reggae and his dislike for how fame had altered the music he once created with Bob. The bond that began in shared struggle ended in anger, leaving behind songs that carried both love and loss, echoing the story of two brothers divided by success. Burning Spear. Burning Spear, born Winston Rodney on March 1, 1945, in St. Anne's Parish, Jamaica, came from a quiet farming community surrounded by cane fields. From his early days, he listened to stories about Marcus Garvey and learned about pride and unity among African people. These ideas stayed with him and shaped his songs later in life. In 1969, while walking along a dusty country road, he met Bob Marley, who was then carrying farm supplies on a donkey. They spoke about faith and the struggles of their people. Marley told him to go to Studio One in Kingston and share his message through music. Rodney later said that this meeting gave him the push he needed to begin his journey. Soon after, he recorded his first song, Door Peep, under the name Burning Spear, which was inspired by the Kenyan leader Jomo Kenyatta. At Studio One, Rodney joined Rupert Willington and Delroy Hines. Together, they formed the group Burning Spear. Their early songs, including Creation Rebellion and Ethiopia, spoke about African identity and freedom. The music was simple and carried deep meaning. It came from the same spirit that guided Bob Marley and the Wailers. Both shared the Rastafari faith and sought to use their music to speak for the poor and oppressed. As the years passed, Marley's path moved in a different direction. In 1972, he joined Island Records and reached people worldwide with songs from albums like Catch a Fire. Rodney stayed in Jamaica, working with producer Jack Ruby. In 1975, he released Marcus Garvey, an album filled with pride and messages of resistance. It reached #1 on the United Kingdom Reggae chart and became his most well-known work. Even with his success, Rodney felt he was being pushed aside. In a 1995 interview, he said that while Bob opened doors for reggae, his fame made it harder for others to be heard. Many music writers started comparing the two men, calling Marley the global voice of reggae and Burning Spear the rooted voice. Rodney never spoke harshly about Marley, but in later interviews he said that one man's fame sometimes left little space for others to grow. In a 2005 interview, he said that Bob was like a brother in the struggle, but fame had chosen one and forgotten many. Still, Rodney never stopped working. He made more albums, including Dry and Heavy in 1978 and Hail Him in 1994, which won a Grammy Award. He toured often, sometimes performing on the same shows as Marley in the late 1970s. The two shared the stage, although Rodney usually felt that his music was treated as a secondary voice. When Bob Marley died in 1981, Rodney paid respect through his performances. In a 2008 interview, he spoke about how record companies had taken control of much of Jamaica's music and sold it without fairly rewarding the artists. He said that while Marley's name had helped reggae travel the world, the real message of the music had often been weakened by the business side of things. There was no public fight between the two men, only a quiet distance. Burning Spear stayed true to the message he started with. His music focused on struggle, strength, and the African spirit. Now, at 80 years old, Winston Rodney's songs are still heard worldwide. His deep voice and steady rhythm remind listeners of the same truths he learned as a boy in St. Anne's Parish. His story reveals a man who remained true to his purpose, even when others gained more insight. Big Youth is another music legend who hated Marley. Big Youth, born manly. Augustus Buchanan, on April 19, 1949, in the fishing village of Treasure Beach, Jamaica, came from a place of hard living and simple roots. The air carried the smell of sea salt and smoke. He grew up in poverty, where the struggle for survival taught him strength. As a young man, he found his voice through local sound systems, using rhythm and words to speak for those who had none. His rough tone and quick speech made him stand out. Every performance was filled with messages about freedom and the struggles of poor people in Jamaica. His song S90 Skank brought him recognition in 1973. It was a strong record built over the Sata Masa Ghana rhythm, filled with words against police violence and unfair treatment. His voice became a call for justice. Soon, he released albums like Screaming Target and Reggae Phenomenon, which made him known as one of reggae's boldest voices. His music drew inspiration from Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X, utilizing heavy drum and bass to convey messages of unity and pride. But behind his success was anger toward Bob Marley. Big Youth believed Marley had turned reggae into something soft to please the West. As a boy, Buchanan had admired the Wailers. He listened to Marley's songs, such as Get Up, Stand Up, which inspired his words against oppression. In 1974, Big Youth joined the Wailers during recording sessions and added his voice to songs like Chant Down Babylon. For a short time, they shared friendship and faith in Rastafari. That bond broke when Marley signed with Island Records in 1973 and began making albums like Natty Dread. Big Youth felt that Marley's fame took reggae away from its roots. He accused Marley of giving up the movement's strength for foreign approval. In a 1976 interview with the Jamaica Gleaner, he said Marley had turned the music of fighters into something for tourists. His words drew attention across Jamaica. The tension grew during a recording session with producer Lee Scratch Perry in 1975. A disagreement about a rhythm credit led to harsh words. Big Youth pointed at Marley and accused him of working for the wrong side, saying Island Records had bought his silence. Marley replied calmly, stating that spreading the message worldwide was part of the struggle, not a betrayal. Witnesses from the day later told the story as one of reggae's deepest divisions. Big Youth carried his anger into songs like Leave It Alone from Reggae Phenomenon, where he spoke against what he saw as Marley's loss of purpose. In later interviews, including one in 2001 with Reggaeville, he said Marley had abandoned those who stayed true to the roots. Even after Marley died in 1981, Big Youth refused to forgive. In a 2005 talk with Extraordinary magazine, he said that Marley's legacy hid the truth about how the music was changed. Over time, Big Youth's music stayed close to its militant tone. Albums like Higher Ground in 1980 showed his loyalty to the old ways. His dreadlocks became a mark of resistance, and his voice carried his message of purity in reggae. Now, at 80 years old, Manly Buchanan still performs. His rough and deep voice continues to warn against forgetting the real meaning of the music. His lasting anger toward Marley's fame remains part of reggae's long and painful story. Niney the Observer. Niney the Observer, born Winston Holness on June 22, 1948 in Montego Bay, Jamaica, came from a hard beginning. He grew up in an orphanage and carried those early scars into adulthood. A sawmill accident in 1968 cost him one arm, but it did not stop him. People began to call him Niney, saying he had 9 lives. His loss became part of his strength, and he carried himself with pride. He found his purpose in music and became a producer and singer whose name was feared and respected in Kingston. In 1977, he released Blood and Fire, built on the haunting rhythm of Slip Away. The song spoke of punishment and truth, echoing through dance halls across Jamaica. It was both a warning and an anthem, propelling Niney to fame. But behind the success was anger that brewed among Kingston's producers. Rivalries grew fierce between Niney, Bunny Lee, and Lee Scratch Perry. Perry used the same rhythm for his song, People Funny Boy. Niney felt betrayed and called it theft, swearing to repay what he saw as an insult. Bob Marley entered the quarrel when his group, the Wailers, worked with Perry and Lee. In 1970, Marley released Mr. Chatterbox, a song that mocked Niney as a talker who spread lies. The lyrics were sharp and public, cutting deep into Niney's pride. Many in the music scene whispered that Niney gossiped for attention, and the song seemed to feed those rumors. Niney took it personally. His reply came through Blood and Fire, which carried biblical words and hidden messages aimed at Marley, Perry, and Lee. By 1971, the song ruled Jamaica's charts. Its heavy rhythm and fire-filled lines played everywhere. But success brought confrontation. Marley came to Niney's record shop in West Kingston one hot afternoon. Tempers broke loose. Marley accused Niney of greed and envy, while Niney shouted that Marley had stolen rhythms and betrayed his own people. The argument turned violent. Records flew from shelves as the two men fought. During the struggle, someone from Marley's group smashed a bottle, cutting Niney's shoulder. He was taken to the hospital for stitches. That same night, Niney's men burned a van used by the Wailers. The flames rose over the city, sending a message that the feud was far from over. Their hatred lasted for years, rooted in stolen work, jealousy, and a sense of pride. Though their paths crossed through music, the wound never fully healed. In later years, when asked about the fight, Niney told interviewers it had been a misunderstanding in the heat, but his expression revealed that the memory still pained him. Marley never spoke publicly about the clash. He continued his career until he died in 1981, leaving the story behind without closure. Their rivalry became part of reggae's deeper history, a shadow behind its golden sound. Niney produced songs like I Am the Greatest and worked with artists such as Dennis Brown, proving his skill and endurance. Even with one arm, he built a career that remained strong over time. His name remains tied to the triumph and the conflict that shaped reggae's rise. Jimmy Cliff. Jimmy Cliff, born James Ezekiel Chambers on April 1, 1944, in Somerton, St. James, Jamaica, rose from rural poverty to shape reggae's voice worldwide. He lost his parents early and found comfort in church choirs, where gospel trained his young voice. At 14, he traveled to Kingston, sleeping rough and begging producers for a chance. His first song, Hurricane Hattie, released in 1962, became a Skay success that made him Jamaica's bright new star. Songs such as King of Kings followed, and his fame reached Brazil in 1964, where he performed at festivals and absorbed new rhythms that later shaped his sound. By 1969, Cliff joined Island Records under producer Chris Blackwell. His album, Wonderful World, Beautiful People, mixed reggae with soul and broke into the British charts. His songs spoke of hope and love, bringing Jamaican music to new audiences before Bob Marley rose to fame. His most extraordinary moment came in 1972, when he played Ivanhoe Martin in The Harder They Come. The movie's soundtrack carried songs such as Many Rivers to Cross and You Can Get It If You Really Want. It spread reggae beyond Jamaica and sold more than any other reggae record until Legend appeared in 1984. Cliff's rise, however, turned bitter when he saw his place overtaken by Bob Marley. In 1962, Cliff had helped Marley record his first single, Judge Not, and found him work at a welding shop. But when Island Records gave Marley the promotion once meant for him, Cliff felt betrayed. Blackwell later said he shifted his whole plan for Jimmy to Bob. Cliff left the island angrily, believing his ideas were stolen and his space taken by the man he helped. The tension between them grew through the 70s. During a meeting in 1972 at Island's office, Cliff warned Marley to watch out for Blackwell, saying he was cunning. Marley replied with calm confidence that he feared no trick. Those words deepened the distance between them, turning mentorship into rivalry. Interviews over the years showed Cliff's lingering bitterness. In a 1995 Virginian Pilot interview, he said Marley's fame had hidden other voices. Even decades later, he spoke of being overshadowed, saying he opened doors that others then closed behind him. Cliff's later works, including Rebirth in 2012, won him a Grammy and reminded audiences of his lasting strength. Yet, his grudge never entirely faded. In a 2022 Guardian talk, he said he had begun before Bob and helped him start. But history favored Marley. Though he honored Marley in public after he died in 1981, his words carried quiet resentment. Now, in his 80s, Cliff continues to perform around the world. His songs remain alive as a triumph and a reminder of a rivalry that shaped reggae's long story. Marley was known for his lyrics of love and peace. However, rivals hated him for his success and soft reggae. His desire to reach everyone with reggae led him to break away from his colleagues' strict rules. Nevertheless, he remained in the genre. What do you have to say about this rivalry? Let's hear from you in the comments. Thank you for watching. Kindly click the following video on your screen.